My name is Daphne Wills, and if you've ever rented a pastel bungalow near Clearwater Beach with a mint green door and a lemon tree out front, there's a good chance it was mine. I'm 29, the daughter of a lifeguard and a florist, and I know two things by heart: tides don't apologize, and people rarely do either. On the morning everything snapped, Florida was showing off sky like a new pool liner, hibiscus losing its mind, and the Gulf breathing slow as a sleeping dog. I had my iced coffee, my phone, my clipboard, and the smudged optimism of a host who tries too hard not to be jaded. The booking showed as Holden Events, Corporate Retreat, check-in at noon, 2 nights, paid by e-check processing. Processing is code for, please don't look too closely. But I did. Because this is my house and my father didn't teach me to watch rip currents just so a fake company could wash me out to sea. I sent 2 messages the night before. Hi. Friendly reminder. Remaining balance due by midnight. Door code releases when payment clears. No response? At 11:02 a.m. A box truck rolled up anyway. White. Unmarked. The kind that looks like it has a personality disorder. 2 guys hopped out. One with tattooed knuckles and a roll of linen tablecloths over his shoulder. Delivery for Holden, he said, chewing gum, not even pretending this wasn't ridiculous. Payment hasn't cleared, I said. No access until it does. He shrugged, because in Florida heat, no one has the energy for moral dilemmas. Lady. I just put up tents. I looked past him to see what else was crammed in the truck. Chairs. A white arch wrapped in fake wisteria. A cake stand shaped like a seashell. Not a corporate retreat. A wedding. I swear the air went still. Not because I hate weddings, I love love, embarrassingly, but because my brain opened a file I keep locked behind sarcasm and closed doors. Nate. There are songs I can't listen to because of him. There are coffee mugs that taste like him. There's a ring-shaped sunburn line that took months to even out and never quite did. My ex. We were almost married, once. Almost is the most expensive word in the English language. The tattooed guy caught me staring at the altar like it was a crime scene and scratched his cheek. Where you want the ceremony, ma'am? Nowhere, I said, because there isn't a wedding here. He glanced at his clipboard. I got a contract. And I've got a mortgage, I said, feeling the lemon tree leaves behind me flicking like they were testing me. And a booking that hasn't paid. He made a call. I watched the ocean of his eyes go blank, while whoever it was on the phone did the Florida man equivalent of a TED Talk. Then he hung up and held out the phone to me. Planner wants to talk to the owner. This is the owner. A woman's voice slid through the speaker, all helium and urgency. Daphne? Sweetie? I'm Bree. So sorry about the mix-up. We have the e-check confirmation. Must be the bank being slow. Bride's very anxious. We're on a tight timeline. Then she should be anxious at the bank, I said. No payment, no setup. Silence. Just the Gulf breathing. Just my heart counting backward. Then Bree dropped it, the casual bomb. Okay, look. The groom has your door code anyway. He said you're friends. Every muscle I own went very, very still. Who's the groom? There was a rustle. The shuffle of a person deciding whether or not to say the quiet part loud. Nathan Archer. My mouth was suddenly dry enough to strike a match on. I ended the call. It wasn't rational. It wasn't mature. It wasn't host-like. But sometimes the tide is already in your throat, and you either cough it up or drown. I remembered the profile Holden Events, the contact email that looked like it was made by a cat walking on a keyboard, and I felt the humiliation rise under my skin like a sunburn. He booked my house. For his wedding. And he didn't even pay. A thin, fake laugh climbed out of me and perched on my shoulder like a rude parrot. Of course he did. I'd met Nate at 26. He had a camera and a jawline, and the kind of confidence you pick up at pawn shops. We were good together until we weren't, until the wedding planning turned into a spreadsheet of fights, and he accused me of caring more about my bookings than our future. Then he left. For someone less intense, he said. Less intense means less able to smell a rip current. The tattooed guy cleared his throat. So, no, I said. No tents, no chairs, no arch, no anything. And if anyone steps on my jasmine, I will cry. He lifted his hands. All right, but the bride, she's searched for the word determined. Yeah, I said, she's marrying Nate. I called Airbnb support while the box truck idled like a bored lion. I sat on hold and listened to a synth harp version of Can't Help Falling in Love that made me want to waterboard myself with my iced coffee. Finally, a human. Hi, I'm seeing an unpaid reservation with third-party vendors arriving, I said, pinching the bridge of my nose like I was squeezing common sense into my skull. I need it cancelled. Support lady had a cheerfulness that felt like a dare. I can help with that. Can we verify the reservation number? I read it out. She typed. I waited. Okay, she said. I see that payment is pending. Due to our policies, we can allow a grace period of. No, I said. There's a wedding trying to land on my lawn like a UFO. This is a security issue. The word security woke something on her end. Let me escalate. More hold music. This time, it was a piano cover of All of Me, and I imagined the piano flying into the Gulf in slow motion. The delivery guy wandered through my side gate, because gates mean nothing to people who assemble temporary scenery for a living. I followed him and put my body between him and my grass, like a bouncer who smells like sunscreen. He looked over my shoulder and whistled. This place is nice. Thank you. Groom's lucky. Not really. In the distance, I heard another engine. A small caravan of SUVs turned onto my street, flower decals on the windows, ribbons snapping in the breeze. The kind of detail that makes adjacent strangers hate you. Support lady returned. Okay, Daphne. I canceled the reservation due to attempted unauthorized use. You're covered per policy. A tiny notch of relief appeared, then disappeared when my phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number. Nate. Open the gate, D. We need the backyard by 1. Bree said you're being difficult. AD. Like I was a button he could push. I didn't reply. He texted again. Nate. We're paying. Don't make this weird. I laughed out loud because the universe likes an audience. Another message. Nate. I thought you'd be happy for me. There are texts that should only be handled by professionals in hazmat suits. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and stepped into myself, the way my dad taught me. Shoulders back, feet steady, eyes calm. The first car door opened, and a woman in blush pink stepped out with a garment bag slung over her arm like victory. Behind her came Bree, beaming, clipboard in hand, blonde ponytail so tight it had its own Wi-Fi. Daphne, she chirped, striding up the walk like she owned a timeshare in my personal space. We're here. Such a beautiful day for love. Such a beautiful day for paying me, I said. She laughed without letting it touch her eyes. Will Venmo, can we do a walkthrough? No. The second SUV door opened, and there he was, Nate, in a white linen shirt with sleeves rolled to the elbows. The sun bounced off his sunglasses, and I could see myself there, a tiny, mirrored figure, stung but upright. He took them off, and the old familiarity punched me in the ribs. Hey D, he said, the voice that used to live in my kitchen, my pillow, my plans. Can we not do this? It's my wedding day. Then you should act like an adult, I said. Adults pay for things. The bride stepped out like an apology in lace. She was beautiful. Of course she was beautiful. She had the kind of cheekbones that look like they come with a trust fund. Daphne, she said gently. I'm Harper. I'm so sorry for any confusion. We were under the impression. You were under the impression my life is a backdrop, I said, more calmly than I felt. It isn't. Her face shifted, the way rich girls' faces shift when they realize the world has boundary lines. Nate slipped into his old rhythm, the slippery smile, the persuasive hands. We'll pay you double, he said, like he was doing me a favor. Triple. You'll make more today than in a month. Across the street, Mrs. Alvarez, my neighbor who monitors the block through a lace curtain, tilted her blinds, eyes alert, popcorn invisible but implied. I inhaled. I felt 26 again, standing at a different altar in my head, saying yes to someone who only ever heard the sound of his own applause. I felt 29 now, with a business, a house, a lemon tree that never asked me to be less. Bree lifted her phone. "If we can't resolve this, I'll have to leave a review," she said sweetly. "We work with a lot of local hosts." "Leave too," I said. "Spell my name right." The tattooed guy had decided to set up a tent anyway, like Florida gravity compels certain mistakes. I turned to him. "Do not touch that pole." Behind me, chairs began coming out of the truck like an army of white teeth, and something in me snapped into place. Not anger, not grief. Something cleaner. I turned my phone back on. I opened the app I reserve for hurricanes and historic sunsets, and my dog when he wears a raincoat. "Go live," it said. My thumb hovered. What do you do when your ex tries to turn your home into a free wedding venue and dares you to swallow it? You don't swallow, you speak. I looked at Nate, at Harper, at Bree, at the truck, at my lemon tree, at Mrs. Alvarez's curtain, at the sky so bright it felt like a camera flash, and then back at my phone. "Hey guys," I said to the empty air where an audience might be. "My name is Daphne Wills. I'm an Airbnb host in Clearwater, Florida, and I think you're going to want to see this." I pressed "Go Live." As the red circle flared, the bride's face drained, Nate's jaw tightened, and Bree's smile flickered like a strand of Christmas lights in a thunderstorm. Then, from the street, a siren chirped one short warning whoop. A Clearwater police cruiser rolled into view, and I realized I hadn't called them. You know that sound when you accidentally hit go live and suddenly you can hear your own heartbeat through the phone mic? Yeah, that was me. Comments started trickling in before I even said a word. "Wait, what's happening? Girl, why are there tents? Are we watching a wedding or a meltdown?" I wasn't sure yet, maybe both. The cruiser rolled up slow. That kind of deliberate police pace that says someone called us, and we're just here to make sure it doesn't end up on the news. Spoiler. It did. Officer Daniels stepped out mid-40s, steady, polite, in that sunburned Florida cop way. I knew him a little. He'd once stopped by to warn me about a string of bike thefts and ended up leaving with 3 lemons from my tree. "Morning, Miss Wills," he said, tipping his hat like this was Sunday school. "We got a call about a disturbance?" I raised my phone so my viewers could see. "Hi, officer. You're live, just for your information." He blinked, glanced at the camera, then at the wedding circus behind me. "Oh, great." Behind him, Harper froze mid-pose, clutching her bouquet like it was a hostage. Bree's smile reappeared, like someone had hit Control+Alt+Del on her expression. Nate stood there, jaw set, sunglasses back on, pretending he wasn't standing in the ruins of his own good judgment. I gestured to the tents, the chairs, the literal altar forming on my grass. Apparently, my ex-fiancé here decided to book my Airbnb for his wedding, without paying, so I'm just documenting. The chat blew up. "Oh no, she didn't. Tag me in when this gets on TikTok." "Ex-fiancé? He did what?" Officer Daniels looked at Nate. "Sir, is that true?" Nate did this thing, God, this thing where he half smiled like life was a misunderstanding he could charm his way out of. "Look, officer, this is a mistake. We booked it fair and square. Payments processing. We're just trying to have a wedding." "Without authorization," I said. "Daphne," he started, tone soft, practiced, dangerous. "You know I wouldn't do anything to hurt you." I laughed, but it came out cracked. "Then you're worse at lying than I remember." Harper stepped forward, her voice sugar-sweet but trembling. "Maybe we can work something out? We can pay cash, triple your rate, no one has to." "No," I cut her off. "This isn't about money anymore, because it wasn't. It was about how many times women are told to be cool, to be nice, to not make it a scene. But I'd already made one, and it was glorious." Daniel scratched his head. "All right, folks, this is private property. If there's no confirmed payment or contract, you're trespassing. I'll need everyone who isn't Miss Wills to step off the property." Bree's clipboard dropped slightly. "Wait, you can't be serious." "Oh, I'm deadly serious," he said. The comments on my live went feral. "We stan Officer Daniels. Girl, you just unlocked main character mode. This man booked his EX's house?" As the wedding crew started reluctantly loading chairs back into the truck, I turned the camera on Nate. He stared back, anger creeping into his voice. You didn't have to humiliate me like this. Didn't I? I said. Because you humiliated yourself the second you typed your name into that booking form. He took a step closer, lowering his voice. You're enjoying this. I met his eyes. No, I'm remembering who I am. Bree muttered something about influencer nonsense under her breath. Daniels shot her a look that could sand wood. Within minutes, the chaos thinned. The tents came down. The trucks pulled away. Harper climbed into the back seat of a white SUV, veil still on, mascara streaked. She didn't look angry, just hollow. Nate lingered, like he couldn't believe I'd actually shut him out this time. I thought maybe we could end things on good terms, he said. We already did, I said. You ended them when you left. This is me setting terms. He looked like he wanted to say something else, but Daniels gestured toward the car. Time to go, sir. Nate got in, slammed the door, and drove off. For a moment, it was just me, the lemon tree, and the sound of my phone buzzing like a beehive. I looked down, notifications stacked like a jackpot machine. Thousands of viewers, screenshots, mentions, retweets. My little live stream had gone viral. I ended it, heart still racing, unsure if I wanted to laugh, cry, or throw up. When I checked my Airbnb inbox, there were dozens of new messages. People wanted to book, to support the Savage Queen of Clearwater, to rent the house where the ex got exposed. My follower count doubled before sunset. By the next morning, the media requests started coming in local news, then national, then BuzzFeed asking for a quick empowering quote. I wasn't sure what I was empowering yet, but I was about to find out. Because going viral isn't victory, it's a beginning. And once your pain becomes public property, people start deciding what it means. Some called me a hero. Some called me petty. Some called me that crazy Florida chick with the lemons. But me? I was still trying to sleep in a house that smelled faintly of wedding cake and regret. That night, I stood in my yard, staring at the patch of grass where they'd tried to plant there forever. I could still see the faint impression of the tent poles. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel small. I opened my phone again, not to live stream, not to rant, just to record a video for myself. Note to self, I whispered. This is not the end. This is the trailer. I didn't know yet that someone else was about to repost my live on TikTok, cutting it into dramatic clips, set to breakup songs, or that by morning, my follower count would hit 6 figures, or that Nate's new wife would post her version of events, and things would explode all over again. But I did know one thing. Revenge wasn't just something I stumbled into. It was something I was going to master. And the first rule? Never delete the footage. If you've never gone viral, let me explain what it feels like. It's like being struck by lightning, only instead of dying, you wake up trending. The morning after my live stream, I opened my phone and thought I was hallucinating. Over 2.3 million views. Hashtags multiplying like rabbits. Number Lemongate. Number Exat, the altar. Number Airbnb Revenge Queen. I had DMs from every corner of the internet. Reporters, brand reps, podcast hosts, strangers offering free merch. Someone even asked if they could use my yard for their wedding. Hard no. It was surreal. My humiliation had turned into entertainment, and my anger, my raw, personal anger, was suddenly content. The local news called first, Channel 7. A reporter named Talia with the kind of smile that says, "I'm on your side, but only if it trends well." She showed up with a cameraman at noon, when the Florida sun could melt your eyebrows. I'd barely slept. My kitchen smelled like coffee and nerves. "Daphne Wills," she said, shaking my hand. "You're a bit of a folk hero right now. Mind if we do a quick interview right out front?" Folk hero. I wanted to laugh. They set up in front of the lemon tree, the same spot where Nate had tried to turn my property into his fairy tale. Poetic, in a petty way. "Daphne," Talia began, the camera blinking red. "What was going through your mind when you realized your ex had booked your Airbnb for his wedding?" I looked at her, at the lens, and then at the lemon tree. "I guess I was thinking," I said slowly, "that some people never learn boundaries until you build one with Wi-Fi and go live." She grinned like she'd found her soundbite. And just like that, I was officially viral on purpose. That night, the clip aired. By morning, it was on YouTube, Reddit, even Facebook mom groups. But fame has gravity. And gravity pulls in everything, even the ugly stuff. Nate's side of the story hit social media next. He posted a reel, shirt crisp, voice calm, like a man reading a hostage statement he'd written himself. "Hey everyone! I just want to clear the air. There's been a misunderstanding. The property was booked. We were just waiting on a payment confirmation. This whole thing got blown out of proportion." And then, the line that made me throw my phone across the couch. "It's sad to see someone I once cared about use my wedding to get attention." Attention. As if I'd planned this circus. As if humiliation was a marketing strategy. I should have ignored it. Should have let it die in the comment section. But I didn't. I made another video. It wasn't pretty. I sat in my car, no makeup, hair in a knot, eyes red. The camera shook a little because my hands were shaking too. "Nate," I said, voice steady but low. "You can spin it however you want, but you tried to use me. You lied, you manipulated a booking system, and you thought I'd roll over. You don't get to call my self-respect attention. You don't get to rewrite the story." I hit post before I could overthink it. Within an hour, it had 1 million views, and I had a war. His friends started posting snide comments, vague, be kind tweets, sympathy posts for the bride caught in the middle. And then Harper herself, my ex's new wife, dropped her own video. She was sitting in their honeymoon suite somewhere tropical, wearing a silk robe and a strained smile. "I just want to say," she began. "I had no idea whose property it was. I would never want to hurt anyone. I thought it was just a cute beach house." A pause. Then, "I hope Daphne finds peace. But we're moving on with our lives. Thanks for watching has sewn out you at an example." Cue dramatic music and coconut-scented moral superiority. The internet, predictably, lost its mind. Half the comments were defending me. Half were calling me jealous, vindictive, obsessed. I scrolled until my thumbs hurt. Until the lines blurred and I couldn't tell who I was anymore, hero or villain, victim or viral mess. Around midnight, I got a message from an unfamiliar name, Mara Jensen. Profile: clean, professional. Bio: producer, The Real Florida Files, streaming docuseries. Her message was short. "Saw your story. Interested in featuring you in our new series on viral justice. You'd be the first episode." Call me? I stared at it for a long time. Viral justice. It sounded ridiculous, exploitative, perfect. Because if my pain was already public, maybe I could at least own the narrative. Maybe I could turn it into power. The next day, I met Mara at a cafe near the pier. She was all black outfit, tablet in hand, voice brisk but kind. "Daphne, your story has everything," she said. "Deception, betrayal, empowerment, Florida sunshine." We'd shoot over 3 days interviews, recreations, the works. "And what's in it for me?" I asked. "Exposure, platform, maybe a paycheck, depending on rights clearance. But honestly, control. You get to tell your story, your way." I sipped my coffee, heartbeat fast. Control, that word again. I thought about how Nate had controlled the narrative for years, even after walking out. How my silence had always been the stage he performed on. "Let's do it," I said. Mara smiled like she'd just cast her season finale. A week later, my living room was full of lights, cameras, and makeup artists. The documentary crew had arrived. It felt surreal watching strangers frame my pain in cinematic lighting. They wanted the moment I went live, reenacted the phone, the gasp, the confrontation. I did it all. But when the camera stopped, I sat in the quiet and felt something twist in my stomach. Was I reclaiming the story? Or reliving it? That night, I got another DM. Anonymous. No profile picture. "You think you've won. But you don't know the whole story. Check the county registry." That was it. No signature, no explanation. I didn't sleep. By dawn, I was sitting in front of my laptop, typing Nate's name into the Pinellas County records. And what I found made my stomach drop. The house. My house. It wasn't listed just under my name anymore. There was a new filing, a claim. Filed 3 days after the wedding incident. By Nathan Archer. He was trying to say he still owned part of my property. I didn't breathe for a full 30 seconds. Just stared at the screen like it might glitch and undo itself. Nathan Archer claimant. Filed with the county clerk 3 days after his failed wedding, citing previous co-ownership contribution. A legal way of saying, I helped pay for this once, so maybe it's still mine. He hadn't just tried to use my home for his wedding. Now he was trying to take it. The cursor blinked like it was mocking me. My stomach turned cold. I whispered to the empty room. You've got to be kidding me. When Nate and I were together, we'd talked about buying property together. My Airbnb was supposed to be our first investment. But when he left with his camera gear and a suitcase full of excuses. He never put a dime into the down payment. The house was mine. The mortgage was mine. The title mine. So, what was this? A stunt? A bluff? Or something worse, something legal enough to hurt me? I called the county office. The clerk, a woman with the voice of someone who's seen too much bureaucracy to care about drama, confirmed it. Yes, Miss Wills. Mr. Archer filed a notice of equitable interest. That doesn't give him ownership, but it does cloud your title until it's resolved. Cloud my title, I repeated, the words heavy. Yes, you can't refinance, can't sell, can't transfer ownership until it's cleared. I gripped the counter, knuckles white. So he's basically holding my house hostage? The clerk exhaled through her nose. Essentially. That night, I sat outside under the lemon tree, laptop glowing on my knees. I could hear the ocean whispering just past the dunes, mocking me with its calmness. This wasn't just a personal vendetta anymore. It was business. He wanted to ruin my income, my independence, my entire foundation. The irony? While he was trying to take my house, the internet thought I was winning. The docu-series teaser had dropped that morning. Dramatic music, slow-motion clips of me closing the gate, voiceover. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is living well and streaming it. The comments were on fire. People called me an icon, a Florida legend, the Lemon Lady of Justice, but none of them knew I might lose the very house that started it all. I called Mara, the producer. Tell me you know a good lawyer, I said. She paused. Wait, he filed what? Something called an equitable claim. It's bogus, but it's tying up my deed. Her tone shifted from sympathy to calculation. This actually adds conflict. It makes the story even bigger. Mara, I'm not saying that's good, she added quickly. I'm saying we'll help you fight it. I can connect you with a legal contact. She's done cases like this for other women on the show. Other women? She sighed. Daphne, you're not the first person whose ex tried to mess with their assets after going viral. That sentence hit like a truth bomb. Apparently, fame didn't just attract followers, it attracted lawsuits. 2 days later, I met the lawyer Mara sent. Elena Park, mid-30s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. We met at a co-working office in Tampa, surrounded by entrepreneurs with overpriced lattes and unresolved trauma. Elena flipped through the filing, scanning fast. Yeah, she said, this is garbage, but he's playing the long game. What do you mean? He doesn't expect to win, she said. He expects to stall. You'll have to respond legally, maybe even go to court. He's hoping the hassle makes you settle. Settle for what? She looked up. Money, access, revenge disguised as negotiation. I stared down at my coffee, jaw tight. He's really doing this just because I embarrassed him. Probably, she said. And because you're not playing small anymore. Some men can't handle that. That night, I opened my live stream again. Not for drama this time, but for truth. I told my followers what was happening. That Nate had filed a fake claim on my house. That it wasn't over, not by a long shot. Comments flooded in. Girl, get him! Lemon Lady needs a lawyer fund. Make this a YouTube doc. Within hours, hashtags like #uncloud the lemons started trending. People offered to crowdfund my legal fees. Strangers sent me videos of their own revenge stories, thanking me for standing up for myself. It was overwhelming, this mix of support and chaos. I hadn't meant to start a movement. But suddenly, I was leading one. Then, one morning, Elena called. Daphne, I have news, she said. The county clerk received a motion to withdraw the claim. My heart jumped. He dropped it? Not exactly. Her tone darkened. Someone else filed it. Not Nate. I blinked. What do you mean, someone else? The claim was signed by an LLC, Archer Holdings Group. I've never heard of that. It's new, she said. Registered last week. Guess who the manager is? I didn't have to. Harper, I whispered. Elena's silence confirmed it. The bride. The woman who'd said she hoped I found peace had just legally joined the fight to take my home. I ended the call and sat in the driveway, staring at my house. The lemon tree rustled in the breeze, the air heavy with salt and disbelief. This wasn't about a viral video anymore. It wasn't about embarrassment or headlines. This was about power. And they'd just declared war. I opened my camera one last time. Not to cry, not to rant. Just to say one sentence. You picked the wrong host. By the time part 5 of my life began, I wasn't just an Airbnb host anymore. I was a brand. A headline. A woman who had somehow turned her heartbreak into a social movement with a lemon emoji as its mascot. But fame doesn't care if you're ready, and I wasn't ready for what came next. The morning after I found out about Archer Holdings Group, I drove to the county clerk's office in Clearwater. The air smelled like sunscreen and bureaucracy. I wore a blazer I hadn't touched since Nate and I had toured open houses together. Poetic, I guess. Elena met me at the entrance. Remember, she whispered, we're not here to fight them today. We're here to document everything. Inside, we sat at a beige desk with a clerk who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. She handed me a copy of the filing. There it was. Claimant. Archer Holdings Group. LLC. Registered agent. Harper Archer. Purpose. Disputed interest in property previously held in shared investment intent. Shared investment intent. Not proof. Not receipts. Intent. I laughed short, bitter. So, apparently feelings are legal currency now. Elena smirked. Welcome to Florida. We filed a counterclaim that same day, an affidavit of sole ownership, backed by my title, my payment history, and about 600 screenshots of Nate ignoring my texts from 2 years ago. Paperwork became my new religion. That night, the story leaked. Someone probably from the courthouse tipped off a gossip site. Headline. Florida's Lemon Lady faces new legal drama with ex's wife over viral Airbnb house. I didn't even have to scroll to know the comments were brutal. Maybe she should have kept it private. She's milking it now. Team Harper. Funny thing about the internet, it builds you up just to test how fast you'll fall. I told myself I didn't care, but when I turned off my phone, the silence buzzed louder than any notification ever had. A few days later, the docuseries crew was back for follow-up footage. Mara, the producer, was practically glowing. This twist is insane, Daphne. Betrayal, lawsuit, power struggle, people will eat this up. I crossed my arms. I'm living it, Mara. It's not just an episode. She softened a little. I know. But you're handling it beautifully. You've become iconic. Iconic doesn't pay legal fees, I said. Still, I let them film, because if Nate and Harper wanted to play dirty, I'd make sure every frame of it was documented. They weren't just fighting me in court, they were trying to tarnish me in the court of public opinion. But I had the camera first. 2 weeks later, I got a surprise, a letter from Harper's attorney. It was polite, expensive looking, and filled with the kind of venom you can only deliver on embossed stationery. Our client requests mediation regarding the equitable claim on the property located at 101 Gulf Breeze Lane. In the spirit of resolution, we propose a private discussion of potential joint ownership or compensation for emotional distress caused by Miss Wills' public statements. Emotional distress. Because I'd live-streamed my own front yard. Elena read it twice and then looked up, unimpressed. They're fishing. Ignore the bait. But I couldn't stop thinking about that phrase, emotional distress. How ironic that the same people who'd ambushed my peace, my home, and my heart now claimed I'd hurt them. By the 3rd week, the online noise had reached a fever pitch. People chose sides. Number Team Daphne versus number Team Harper. TikToks, Twitter threads, even a parody account pretending to be my lemon tree. One night, scrolling through comments, I saw something new, a short clip from Harper's perspective, filmed during that original wedding day. Her camera had captured me storming out of the house, yelling at the event crew. The caption, "Imagine being so bitter, you ruined someone's wedding." It went viral. And suddenly, half the internet thought I was the villain. I called Elena in tears. "She's twisting it, Elena. They're making it look like I was jealous." Elena's voice was calm, like stone. "Then we show receipts." She helped me draft a statement, professional, measured, just sharp enough to cut through the noise. I posted it at midnight. To anyone still confused, this wasn't jealousy, it was theft. No one should have to watch someone they once loved invade their space and try to profit from it. My home is mine. My peace is mine. And no one, not a man, not a marriage, not a hashtag, gets to take that away. It hit like a thunderclap. The comments shifted overnight. Influencers reposted it with the caption, "Protect your peace, even if it costs your past." For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. Then came the email, from a burner account. Subject line, "You really want the truth?" Inside was a single attachment, a PDF. I hesitated, then opened it. It was a bank statement. Not mine, Nate's. And there, clear as day, was a $10,000 wire transfer made to me, dated 2 years ago. The memo line read, "House deposit." My heart stopped. It wasn't true, I'd never received it. But the document looked real, and if they presented it in court, it would look like Nate had invested in the property. A fake transaction. A forged receipt. Elena called it immediately. "This is fraud." But if they're willing to go this far, they're desperate. Desperate or confident. Because 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. A text. From a new number. "Nate, you should have left it alone, D. You wanted a story? Here it comes." I stared at the message until my pulse slowed enough to think straight. Then, quietly, I smiled. Because if he wanted to play with fire, I'd already learned how to live stream it. I opened my camera one more time. "Hey, everyone," I said. "Remember how I said revenge isn't the goal? I might have to amend that." I paused, meeting my own reflection in the screen. This time it's justice. There's a moment in every revenge story where the victim stops reacting and starts planning. For me, that moment came the morning after Nate's text. I woke up before sunrise, the house unnaturally quiet. Even the lemon tree outside seemed to hold its breath. $10,000. A fake transfer. A threat in my inbox. He wasn't just trying to mess with me anymore, he was building a paper trail. And if I didn't move first, he'd bury me in it. I forwarded the document to Elena with a note. "They're forging proof. Need options." She called within 10 minutes. Her voice, clipped and serious. "We're not going to play defense. We're going on offense." She explained the plan like she'd done it 1,000 times because she had. Step 1. Gather everything. Every email, every message, every photo of Nate from our time together that showed how little he'd contributed. Step 2. Audit my accounts. Prove no such deposit ever happened. Step 3. File a cease and desist for defamation and fraudulent representation. And step 4, the one that made me hesitate. "Take it public again," she said. "You have the audience. Use it." I sighed. "You really think going viral again helps?" Elena didn't even blink. "If they're building a lie, sunlight is your best disinfectant." So, I did what I knew how to do best. I hit record. The lighting was natural, morning sun spilling through the window, golden and cruel. "Hey everyone," I began, voice steady. "Remember my ex who tried to book my house for his wedding? Turns out, he's not done." I held up the document, blurred for privacy. "He's filed fake financial records claiming he invested in my home. He didn't. I've got the real bank statements to prove it." A pause. Then I leaned in closer to the camera. "And just so we're clear, this isn't about bitterness. This is about boundaries. He crossed one, and now he's trying to rewrite the map." I ended the video there, short, direct, furious. It hit 3 million views, in less than 6 hours. By noon, the hashtag number receipts for Daphne was trending. People were tagging lawyers, accountants, even ex-FBI agents offering to analyze the metadata. Someone found out Archer Holdings Group's LLC registration had a typo in the filing address, a rookie mistake. Another user uncovered that Harper's company website used my property photos from my Airbnb listing, stolen, pixel for pixel. The internet had turned into a volunteer detective agency. And for once, they were on my side. Meanwhile, the docuseries crew went into overdrive. Mara texted me, "Can we film you going through the evidence? It's powerful stuff." I almost said no, but then, I realized, if I didn't tell this story right, Nate and Harper would. So, I let them in. They filmed me scrolling through files, narrating everything I'd learned. When I got to the fake bank statement, I felt my throat tighten. "This," I said to the camera, "is how people like him keep control. Not with fists, not with words with paperwork, with manipulation that looks legitimate." Mara nodded quietly behind the monitor. "That's gold," she whispered. Gold. That word made me shiver. Later that night, I got a voicemail. No caller ID. Male voice. Low. Tired. "Daphne, it's Nate. You need to stop. You don't know what you're doing." Click. No apology. No remorse. Just that thin thread of control he always used, the suggestion that he still knew better. I replayed it 3 times, each one colder than the last. Then I saved it. Evidence. A week passed. Elena filed the fraud report. The county clerk froze the claim pending investigation. But Harper wasn't backing down. Her social media started dripping with polished victimhood beach photos, cryptic captions like, "Some people love the spotlight until it burns them." She even did a podcast interview. I listened to it while driving to the courthouse, knuckles white on the steering wheel. "I just want peace," she said sweetly. "We were treated so unfairly. And to see your wedding turned into someone else's fame? It's heartbreaking." Then, the dagger. "I hope Daphne gets the help she needs." I almost drove off the road. When I arrived at the courthouse, reporters were waiting. Somehow they knew. Microphones. Cameras. Questions flying at me like insects. "Daphne, is it true your ex's wife is suing for defamation? Do you regret live streaming the original incident? Are you capitalizing on your trauma?" I stopped, squared my shoulders, and gave them the same line I'd rehearsed in my mirror. Regret? No. I regret trusting the wrong people, but I'll never regret standing up for myself. Flashbulbs popped. Somewhere behind the crowd, Mara's camera crew was filming too. That night, I sat on the beach behind my house. The tide was low, the horizon smeared with pink and silver. I hadn't felt peaceful in months, but for a moment, I could almost pretend. Then I heard footsteps. Soft, hesitant, familiar. I turned. Nate. Standing 10 feet away, hands in his pockets, that same self-assured smirk barely there. "What do you want?" I asked. He sighed. "To talk. Not on camera." "Then, you shouldn't have done things worth filming." He gave a small, humorless laugh. "You really think you're the hero here?" "I don't need to be the hero," I said. "I just need to tell the truth." He stepped closer. "You're ruining my life, Daphne. You tried to ruin mine." For a second, we just stared at each other, the kind of silence that feels electric, dangerous. Then he leaned in, voice low. "You have no idea how deep this goes." And just like that, he walked away. No threat, no context. Just those words hanging in the salt air like a storm cloud. I stood there long after he was gone, waves licking my feet, mind spinning. What did he mean? How deep this goes? Because for the first time, I wondered, was this really just revenge? Or had I stumbled into something much bigger? Nate's words haunted me for days. "You have no idea how deep this goes." I replayed them in my head while brushing my teeth, while answering DMs, while trying to sleep under a roof that suddenly felt like evidence. What could be deeper than a fake financial claim? Unless it wasn't fake. Elena arranged for a full financial audit. Every bank record, every transaction linked to me, to the property, even to Nate. 3 days later, she called, her voice sharp. Daphne, I found something. I drove straight to her office, heart pounding. She slid a folder across the table. Inside was a printout, showing multiple transfers from an old joint account Nate and I had opened years ago for house planning. I'd forgotten it even existed. It still had his name on it. He'd been funneling small deposits into it for months after the breakup. Nothing huge, just enough to build a trail. Then, a single large transfer, labeled as investment. He'd built the lie slowly, like a spider web. Elena leaned back, rubbing her temples. He's been planning this for a long time. He wanted to set up proof of co-investment. You're not just dealing with a grudge, you're dealing with premeditation. My stomach dropped. So, what do we do? She looked me dead in the eye. We expose it. All of it. That night, I went live again. Not angry this time. Calm. Precise. Hey everyone, I began. You followed my story, the ex, the fake wedding, the lawsuit. But tonight, you're going to see the part even I didn't know. I held up the records. My ex didn't just lie. He fabricated a financial trail months before any of this started. He built a fake investment story so he could claim a house he didn't earn, and his wife Harper is part of it. I showed the blurred receipts, the timestamps, the proof that the joint account had been quietly reactivated under his name after we broke up. I didn't realize it before, but this wasn't just revenge. This was theft. Planned, digital, emotional theft. The chat blew up. Girl, this is wild. This is criminal. You need to press charges. The video hit 5 million views overnight. 2 days later, I woke up to police cars outside my house. For once, they weren't there for me. They were there for him. Elena called an hour later. They got him, she said. Bank fraud and attempted title manipulation. The digital trail was enough to open a case. Apparently, Harper had cracked under pressure. When investigators questioned her, she admitted Nate had coached her to register the LLC that he'd promised. It would all blow over, once I panicked. Instead, it blew up. The docuseries captured the aftermath. News headlines. Clips of Nate being escorted into a courthouse, sunglasses on, face tight with arrogance that finally had nowhere to go. Harper walking behind him, mascara streaked, silence louder than any statement. The public turned fast, from Team Harper memes to apologies in my DMs. But I wasn't celebrating. Not yet. Because winning isn't always satisfying. Sometimes it just leaves you hollow, like the tide pulled out everything, even the anger. That evening, Mara stopped by my house with a camera crew. She wanted a final interview, the closing monologue. She asked, "What would you say to Nate now, if he could hear you?" I looked at the lens, at the lemon tree swaying behind her. "I'd say thank you," I said quietly, "for showing me how much I can survive. For proving that the only way to lose is to stay silent." Mara smiled softly. That's our ending line, but it wasn't. Not yet. Because there was still one thing left to do. The next morning, I packed a cooler, grabbed my tripod, and drove to the beach at sunrise. I set up the camera, pointed it at the water, and went live one final time. "Hey everyone," I said, voice steady. "This is where it all started. Clearwater Beach. The day I found out my ex tried to turn my life into a backdrop. I thought revenge would fix everything. But it didn't." I paused, letting the waves fill the silence. What did fix it was truth. And owning it. Out loud. Even when it's messy. Then, I took off my sandals, waded into the surf, and held up a single lemon. "For every woman who's ever been underestimated," I said, smiling. "When life hands you lemons, don't just make lemonade, make headlines." The chat exploded. Hearts, comments, support. It wasn't revenge anymore. It was release. Nate's words haunted me for days. "You have no idea how deep this goes." I replayed them in my head while brushing my teeth, while answering DMs, while trying to sleep under a roof that suddenly felt like evidence. What could be deeper than a fake financial claim? Unless it wasn't fake. Elena arranged for a full financial audit, every bank record, every transaction linked to me, to the property, even to Nate. 3 days later, she called, her voice sharp. "Daphne, I found something." I drove straight to her office, heart pounding. She slid a folder across the table. Inside was a printout showing multiple transfers from an old joint account Nate and I had opened years ago for house planning. I'd forgotten it even existed. It still had his name on it. He'd been funneling small deposits into it for months after the breakup. Nothing huge, just enough to build a trail. Then, a single, large transfer, labeled as investment. He'd built the lie slowly, like a spider web. Elena leaned back, rubbing her temples. He's been planning this for a long time. He wanted to set up proof of co-investment. You're not just dealing with a grudge, you're dealing with premeditation. My stomach dropped. So what do we do? She looked me dead in the eye. That night, I went live again. Not angry this time. Calm, precise. Hey everyone, I began. You followed my story, the ex, the fake wedding, the lawsuit. But tonight, you're going to see the part even I didn't know. I held up the records. My ex didn't just lie. He fabricated a financial trail months before any of this started. He built a fake investment story so he could claim a house he didn't earn. And his wife Harper is part of it. I showed the blurred receipts, the timestamps, the proof that the joint account had been quietly reactivated under his name after we broke up. I didn't realize it before, but this wasn't just revenge. This was theft. Planned, digital, emotional theft. The chat blew up. Girl, this is wild. This is criminal. You need to press charges. The video hit 5 million views overnight. 2 days later, I woke up to police cars outside my house. For once, they weren't there for me, they were there for him. Elena called an hour later. They got him, she said. Bank fraud and attempted title manipulation. The digital trail was enough to open a case. Apparently, Harper had cracked under pressure. When investigators questioned her, she admitted Nate had coached her to register the LLC, that he'd promised it would all blow over once I panicked. Instead, it blew up. The docuseries captured the aftermath. News headlines, clips of Nate being escorted into a courthouse, sunglasses on, face tight with arrogance that finally had nowhere to go. Harper walking behind him, mascara streaked, silence louder than any statement. The public turned fast. From Team Harper memes to apologies in my DMs. But I wasn't celebrating, not yet. Because winning isn't always satisfying. Sometimes it just leaves you hollow like the tide pulled out everything, even the anger. That evening, Mara stopped by my house with a camera crew. She wanted a final interview, the closing monologue. She asked, "What would you say to Nate now, if he could hear you?" I looked at the lens, at the lemon tree swaying behind her. "I'd say thank you," I said quietly, "for showing me how much I can survive, for proving that the only way to lose is to stay silent." Mara smiled softly. That's our ending line. But it wasn't. Not yet. Because there was still one thing left to do. The next morning, I packed a cooler, grabbed my tripod, and drove to the beach at sunrise. I set up the camera, pointed it at the water, and went live one final time. "Hey everyone," I said, voice steady. "This is where it all started, Clearwater Beach. The day I found out my ex tried to turn my life into a backdrop. I thought revenge would fix everything, but it didn't." I paused, letting the waves fill the silence. What did fix it was truth, and owning it, out loud, even when it's messy. Then, I took off my sandals, waded into the surf, and held up a single lemon. "For every woman who's ever been underestimated," I said, smiling. "When life hands you lemons, don't just make lemonade. Make headlines." The chat exploded. Hearts, comments, support. It wasn't revenge anymore. It was release. End of part 7. Part 8. Full circle. 6 months later, my house looked different. New paint, new locks, new peace. The docuseries had aired Viral Justice, the Lemon Host. It hit #1 on streaming for 2 weeks, and I'd somehow become a motivational speaker by accident. I still hosted guests, but carefully screened, of course. One of them, an older woman from Oregon, left me a note that said, "You reminded me that boundaries aren't walls. They're doors that only open for the right people." I cried over that one. Nate had pled guilty to fraud and falsifying financial records. He took a plea deal, probation, restitution, and mandatory counseling. Harper filed for divorce before the ink was dry. The internet moved on, eventually. But every few weeks, I'd still get tagged in a clip of the original live stream, me in the sun, holding my phone, standing my ground. People called it the moment she took her power back. I called it Tuesday. One afternoon, I got a letter in the mail, handwritten, familiar handwriting. No return address, just, from N.A. I almost threw it away, but curiosity won. Inside, a single sentence. You were right, it was never about the house. No signature. I stared at it for a while, then fed it through my paper shredder. No anger, no tears. Just closure. That night, I went live again, not for drama, not for defense. Just to talk. Hey everyone, I said softly. It's been a while. Some of you have been here since the beginning, the wedding, the live stream, the lawsuit. I just wanted to say thank you. I smiled at the camera. I learned that revenge might start the fire, but forgiveness keeps it from burning your house down. Literally. Then I laughed. Genuine this time. I'm okay. I really am. And if you're watching this, and you've ever been betrayed, don't let it break you. Let it build you. Because pain becomes power. If you let it. The screen filled with hearts. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel watched. I felt seen. I ended the stream, stepped outside, and breathed in the warm Florida air. The lemon tree rustled above me, branches heavy with fruit. I plucked one and rolled it in my palm. Cool, solid, alive. Here's to starting over, I whispered. And somewhere beyond the waves, I swore I could hear my dad's voice again. Steady, certain, proud. Tides don't apologize, Daph, but they always return. The camera may have stopped rolling, but my story had just begun.